I think our purpose is to feel.
Why?
Well, I mean, we were given the ability to feel. I mean, we have the faculties, it's the anatomy of our brain, it's the anatomy of our spirit, it's the anatomy of our body. I mean, that feeling is the thread. It helps us evolve consciously. You can't raise your vibration or reach different levels of consciousness or be able to see things in different ways without the presence of feeling.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Grateful Podcast. Thank you for joining the show. Today, I have the privilege of sitting down with Sherianna Boyle, an 11-time author, speaker, and the force behind emotional detox coaching. Her work isn't about suppressing emotions or just thinking positive. It's about something much deeper. Through her cleanse method, she's challenging the way we deal with emotions, showing us they can be processed rather than controlled, how they can be transformed rather than feared. Sherianna's work sits at the intersection of psychology, spirituality, and energy healing. And I want to dig into the raw human elements of what she does. How does emotional detox actually work? Is there a cost to constantly striving for self-improvement? And what are we getting wrong about emotions, intuition, and healing? This is going to be a deep conversation, and I'm super excited to dive into it. Sherianna, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks so much for having me. It's great to be here.
Yeah, after we got through the technical difficulties, a little challenge to get us started, and now we're ready to go.
Yeah. Yes.
So I was thinking last night, and this was actually perfect it was a perfect coincidence given your messaging, but I've been on a little bit of a food diet recently that I've been trying, like past 2 weeks. I'm 2 weeks into, it's almost Whole30, but it's not quite that. So like I'm not doing gluten, not doing dairy, no sugar. It's really difficult. But I think it's so interesting to think about how I'm trying to feel how that affects me, the way I really perceive and experience my life. But what I've realized affects me even more is how I process my emotions and how, if I'm meditating or not. And I thought it's funny that we don't do things like that for our emotions. There's no such thing as an emotional detox, or there's no such thing as I don't know. It was just perfect. It was a coincidence because that's your thing, an emotional detox. So I wanted to start off kind of diving right into what that is and why it's so important.
Yeah, well, several years ago, so when the core book, I've written 3 books on emotional detox, and the core book was written back in 2018. But previous to that, I was asking those same questions myself, like what exactly is an emotional detox? I mean, like you mentioned, we know what a physical detox is when we're trying to get rid of the chemicals and impurities, and we understand how that helps everything to work better in the body. And an emotional detox is similar. And I had to kind of create it, Jack, because when I went into the research, I found it very loosely discussed, but I didn't find any real anything concrete that I could sink into. And so I went through about 5 weeks worth of research on how to create this concept of emotional detox. And then I was really hit with some terrible news in my own life, unexpected, which can happen. And I ended up needing an emotional detox. So then the research comes not just because I'm interested, but because I'm actually going through my own thing where I'm facing something very challenging. And so with an emotional detox, the pillars that I've based it on is, number 1, all your emotions are good so long as they're processed. And I'll say that again, all your emotions are good, even the shame, even the guilt, even the fear. They're all good so long as they're processed. The second pillar of an emotional detox is we're not actually looking to get rid of your emotions. Similar to pesticides and chemicals in food, like a physical detox, we are looking to get rid of your reactions. The ways the ways in which you are minimizing, controlling, managing, and ignoring or avoiding or suppressing, repressing your emotions. So that's what, because once you get rid of the reactivity around the emotions, then you get to discover just how valuable they are.
So what does it mean to process your emotions? How do you go about that?
Yeah. So that's the next natural question, right, Jack? That's what I asked too. I was like, okay, I understand why it's important. Now, how do you do it, right? Basically. And that's when I came up with a system called CLEANSE, which is an acronym. And so what it means is it allows you to experience an emotion. So what I find is, like, if I asked you, Jack, like right now, if you said out loud, well, say this out loud. Let's play around. If you said, how I feel in my body right now is, how I say
Like
that out
good.
loud, how I feel in my body
Oh,
right now is,
how I feel in my body right now is.
right? And what does your mind go to? Do you kind of think about what you're going through or what's going on in your life very loosely in the background? So
Yeah.
to come up with that, what pops in?
I start becoming cognizant of how I'm feeling. I start being more conscious about how my body feels.
Okay, so you become more conscious. Is there any part of you that is that is wondering what the cause of your feelings are? Is going to like, well, I feel this way because I'm in school
Hmm.
right now and it's finals, like that kind of place.
Yeah, yeah, I get that.
That happens a lot with people where they look for the feeling, but they also look for the problem.
Hmm.
Like, because I'm in this situation, because I'm low on money, because I can't go on vacation, I'm feeling, frustrated. These are some just little ways that we can go into reactivity, and it prevents us from experiencing a feeling, like you pointed out, how my body feels in this moment. So the way I like to explain it is, when you eat food, you can either shove it down and gobble it down real quick, and you're like, okay, now I'm full. I went from hungry to full. Or you can experience your food, and that would be to smell it, to touch it, to feel it, to take in the atmosphere that you're in, to connect with your body. And that's what it kind of is like to process. So you have a choice. You're going to rush through it, and it's very complicated because all these, as you slow down, so let's say you're going to stop for lunch. A lot of times what people do is they get distracted, or they grab their phones, or the moment they pause, all these intrusive, I want to say, thoughts come in, and then they're reacting to the thoughts, and they start, instead of feeling what's coming up, the emotions, the sensations in the body, they start to block them, and it becomes a bit of a numbing thing. So when emotions are allowing yourself to have an experience with the energy of them.
Interesting. Listening to you talk, I'm drawing a lot of conclusions or a lot of connections between this idea of processing your emotions and not jumping to conclusions and thinking about them, and Stoic philosophy, which is like you don't act upon your emotions, but you listen to them and you recognize them. I think that's really interesting. I'm always fascinated about how um, thousands of years ago, before science and all these tools, people drew very similar conclusions to what we find today. Thousands of years ago, with or thousands of years later, with so many different tools and so much technology.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, you're talking about some of the, philosophy is like the original psychology that Socrates and all of that. And it's know thyself, right? Know thyself.
Yeah.
And you're
Um,
absolutely right.
yeah.
And just kind of builds on each other there, but somewhere along the lines we've just become this managing thyself, but that's not know thyself.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think it's so difficult, especially in today's age where we're constantly flooded with media and information, to actually slow down and take the time to process your emotions. I think a lot of people, and I've heard this from peers, from different people in my life, like I don't have time to do that. Um, I don't have time for that. And that's sad because it personally, when I have taken the time, and I'm guilty of that as well, but personally, when I have actually taken the time to go through and think about just let myself experience the emotion. I love that metaphor. It just makes me feel different. It makes me experience life in a different way, and I think it's hard to describe that tangible feeling with words, but it's so real and it's so there.
Yeah, I mean, Carl Jung used the word aggrieved. Aggrieved meaning if when I allow an emotion to touch me deeply in some way, I'm richer. Is I'm paraphrasing here. I'm richer for it. And yeah, so many people do say that the time thing, but you can squeeze it in, Jack. I'm an adjunct psychology professor and I teach mindfulness and yoga at the college that I work at as well. And just this morning I was teaching, and one of my students kept bringing up, "Where's so and so? So and so's not here today." "Oh, they're probably coming next week. They'll be here." "I wonder where they are." Like after a few minutes, kept bringing this up. It was really kind of cute that the student was really preoccupied by the fact that another student was supposed to be there, and they weren't there. And I could tell the student was having a hard time being present because of this. It's like they wanted to just go call him or something, right? And so I just right then and there, I just said, "Okay, let's all take a pause here." And I said, "Play with me here." And this is part of the cleanse system that I've written out in emotional detox and emotional detox for anxiety, emotional detox now. I wrote 135 of them. And I really took a moment and gave space for that student to process, not in front of everybody. We did it with him. So it looked something like, we can all relate. And when I don't know where someone is, or I don't know why they're not here, it makes me feel. And then breathe. And we all took a pause. And I think that this is sort of my hope in the direction that we go, that if somebody is feeling off or a little rattled, why can't we all take a pause together? Why does it have to be so individual? We can all benefit from a pause. And so we did. We took it took maybe 3 minutes. Everybody in that room can relate to that feeling of not knowing where someone is and why aren't there. And you have to make it part of not just an individual experience, in my opinion, but you have to make it part of the culture.
Yeah, that's so important. I mean, I've read a few books on like team culture, and I read a book on the All Blacks, the amazing rugby team, and they made things like that a part of the culture. They experienced things collectively, and when you don't feel so isolated in your emotions, I think it allows you to be more free and be more present and less afraid of judgment. Um, yeah, that's I really like that you did that. That's a super important thing to do. Um, so how can this idea of just detoxing your emotions and processing them, how can it tangibly affect your life, and what are the like experiences or the consequences of this idea?
If we don't process them, or if we do
If we
process
what
them.
if we do process them? Yeah.
Yeah. I think, I experienced, I'll use today's example, when I went into some emotional processing from that one student, I saw everybody benefit. So what does that look like? Well, there's a calmness that comes over. Everybody gets a chance to, you get more grounded. I think there's a sense of safety that comes into the body, and we're no longer functioning on adrenaline, that idea of keeping up. And a lot of people are teetering on burnout. The impact on the nervous system is wonderful in terms of nervous system regulation, in terms of opening up. My latest book is called Just Us Spirit, where I teach people how emotional processing opens up their intuition so you can trust your inner guidance and listen and follow and stick with it, and help you to discover your purpose. I think a lot of people are wondering about that. And I have found emotional processing does help people, lead people to what is my purpose. And your purpose evolves. It's never one thing. It's probably many things.
Your purpose is that's such a big question, and I think it's so many people are searching for that. Finding finding purpose is something that I think a lot of people do talk about, and they glorify it. Not in the I do agree that it's very very important, but I think we can get lost in a search for purpose, and
Yeah.
uh, that leads to a disillusionment of what is actually in front of us and important. Something I've found in my life is it's very important to balance the search and the pursuit of things with also just being here now.
Yeah, I agree with you, Jack. I think our purpose is to feel.
I like that. Why?
Well, I mean, we were given the ability to feel. I mean, we have the faculties, it's the anatomy of our brain, it's the anatomy of our spirit, it's the anatomy of our body. I mean, the feeling is the thread. It helps us evolve consciously. You can't raise your vibration or reach different levels of consciousness or be able to see things in different ways without the presence of feeling. And so that
Interesting.
means you can't look at your emotions as a threat, or you have to let go of a lot of the coping mechanisms that we put around them, ways that we quote unquote deal with them. They're not something you deal with. That is, to me, that's somewhat disrespectful. I have to deal with, cope with. It's like, imagine someone saying that to you: I have to cope with Jack Wagoner. Right? It
Yeah.
would not feel very good, right? And we do that with our emotions. Oh, I have to deal with this, and I deal with the stress, and I deal with. No, you don't. I mean, that if you're saying that, then you're in reactivity, and your emotions have somehow, which is conditioning, a lot of it, become almost like the enemy, and they're not.
I hope you're enjoying this episode of the Grateful Podcast. I'm interrupting to let you know that it would mean the world to me if you could share this episode with someone that you think would enjoy it, or leave a review down below so I can learn what I can do better and what I'm doing well with this podcast. It's a passion project, and I really want it to turn into something that helps people everywhere. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoy the rest of the episode. Interesting. You talk so much about, when I was looking at your stuff, anxiety and stress. Do you think that those two things come from a lack of feeling?
Absolutely. So I wrote a book called Emotional Detox. I've written several books about anxiety, but the emotional detox for anxiety, I define anxiety as an emotion looking to be processed but can't because we won't let it.
Why are we so? Why are so many people afraid of processing their emotions?
Well, I think a lot of people just don't know how to do it, Jack, honestly. I mean, I didn't, and I'm a lot older than you, and I'm still learning how to process my emotions every day, even though I have a system I found that works for me. There's always room for more learning, and then also I just think it's a society thing. Again, my hope is to let's bring it into the family, let's bring it into the work setting, let's give space for it. It doesn't mean, I think we have this idea that processing emotions means you're going to break down and be like a blubbering mess on the ground. Right? That if somehow I let this vault open of the things that I've been closed, not letting out, if I let them out, I'm going to fall apart. I think that's the fear. And if I fall apart, how am I going to pay my bills? How am I going to go to school? How am I going to do my work? Like, we are so afraid, but that is simply a false belief. That feeling leads to falling apart. That is not true. Actually, it's the opposite. Control and reactivity is what erodes you and breaks you down. Feeling is what puts you back together again.
That's really interesting. Something I've thought about a lot is how, like, as humans, as we become more intelligent, we become better at thinking, and thinking seems to, the more we think, the more we seem to think ourselves into problems. Um, it's an interesting paradox, right? Because we want to become more intelligent beings. That's how we progress as a species. But in that progression, we seem to be losing our essence of feeling.
Yeah. You can't feel without breathing. Right? There's going to have to be breath involved if people want a little insight into that. If you don't want to feel anything, just hold your breath, right? Or live on a very shallow breath, which means you're going to always sustain some levels of fear.
Yeah.
So it does mean there will be more conscious breathing going on. And that is going to naturally, so emotions impact our circulation, they impact our blood flow, everything. And so you will be breathing for sure.
Breath is so important. Um, so earlier you talked about, I heard you mention higher vibration, and higher levels of consciousness. I'm super interested in that. And I know that there's been, I've also heard you mention manifestation on your website.
Yeah.
And I know that manifestation over the past year or two has become more of a mainstream thing, but I think, like anything that goes viral, so much of its essence is lost. And I think there are misconceptions about it. Some people are going to listen and say, oh, that's too woo woo or whatever. But I'm really interested to hear your perspective on all those things, on higher vibrations, manifestation, higher levels of consciousness.
Yeah. Well, I wrote a book called Energy in Action, and that is about manifesting. And it's this, I wrote about 12 spiritual laws. And I didn't want to write it, Jack. I really didn't want to write the book because I thought it's over talked about. Too many people are using manifesting. But I kept getting guided. And when I finally sat down and through my emotional detox practice, that's how Just Ask Spirit came to be. It sort of opens up this connection to your spirit guides. Emotions open up that doorway. We're always connected, but they really can help you to have a dialogue in some, if you will. But in terms of manifesting, what Spirit shared with me when I was writing that book is manifesting was never meant for the me. It was meant for the we. And the me mindset is can be very egoic, which is the human nature to have the ego, what I want, and so the way that I teach manifesting is absolutely, open up your heart and mind to whatever it is. You deserve the world. You deserve everything that you hope for, everything you can dream of. Absolutely. But work with the spiritual laws. This is about bringing it in for the masses. This isn't just about me. So in that book, I wrote about very specific ways which help your emotions also raise your vibration. So as emotions get processed, your vibration goes up. And as a result, what you pay attention to shifts. So it's very difficult for me to pay attention to what I don't like if my vibration's going up. And so emotions are a big part of manifesting and really opening up and taking. So we have an aura, we have a field of energy. And as you're opening up to these spiritual laws, you are, it's a devotion, from what my guides have taught me, that I'm opening up. So let's say if I want to manifest abundance, I'm opening that up to work through me, for me, and for everyone, all beings everywhere. And I think that's the way the spiritual masters taught us, the ascended masters. I mean, I'm getting woo-woo on you, but if we go into this, really watch the teachers like Buddha and, Jesus and things like that. They didn't just focus on one me, right?
Right.
They focused on the we. And so I teach manifesting through the laws and energy and action, but how do you do that? How do you open that up?
So when you're manifesting, are you thinking? Are you feeling? That's something that I've
You're
been
feeling.
confused
It's
about.
it's
Okay.
the same cleanse practice. So that's my signature. The cleanse is in
Yeah.
every one of my books, pretty much. And so it's the same system. So people don't have to learn a new thing. Only we're tweaking it for manifesting. In Just Us Spirit, I'm tweaking it for connecting with guides and receiving your own answers and healing and all that. Same system, different intention for each of them.
And what does cleanse stand for?
Well, it depends what your intention is, but cleanse is the C is about
Yeah.
connecting. Again, depends on which one, but let's say emotional detox.
Okay.
That one is all about regulating your nervous system. It's called clear reactivity. L is called look inward. That is when you're tapping into your emotions, your inner emotions, and you're acknowledging them and validating them. And I give tools for each of these processes. It's a 10-minute practice. Think of a
Okay.
10-minute, 7-step practice. E is emit, which is sound, vibration, mantra. A is activate, which is about what you're creating, manifesting. N is nourish, really taking in the vibrations, like what taking it in, you're creating it and then downloading it, if you will, like a computer file, getting yourself
Okay.
a chance to receive it. S is surrender, which your free will statement. And then E's is the I am, which is we are one in the end. We were never separate. And so it's about coming back to that space of oneness and unity.
It's so cool hearing you list out those steps, and then after listening to you describe the process for manifestation, it's pretty easy to draw the connection between the two. That's so cool. I think ease is a word that so many people look for, right? This word, it's romanticized, ease. And even when I think about it, I think of this, I just get this feeling inside of me. It's interesting to notice that. What do you what do you define ease as, and how? And is ease just the final result of those steps?
It's the last, so the steps always go in order. They never change
Yeah.
order. You never skip a step. That's what my guides told me. And even me I've practiced it so many times. I never skip it, never act like, oh, I already got that down. I always was guided that we always begin at the C, end with the E. Ease is the I am. It's the, that ease has been written in the Bible over 700 times or something. You see it across many different traditions. You see it in the Hindu text, the Sanskrit, the Satnam. Ease is the I am. No matter, it's the oneness. Meaning, I look at a tree, I say, okay, there's a beautiful tree, and that tree is separate from me. But the I am no longer is separate from the tree. We're connected. We're from the same source. We share energy. As well as people. We see each other as separate. Well, you're this and I'm that, and you believe this and I believe that, and you live here and I live there, and when we do that, the more we're separated, we can suffer. And when we come together, that's like magic. It's what brings that sense of stability. It doesn't mean we have to all agree or be the same. We get to honor the uniqueness of each other. But we are connected. I mean, if you feel an emotion, emotions are very contagious, highly contagious, and through social media, contagious.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to
You're
be
right.
physically in person. You can pick up an emotion like that. I mean, we are that close to one another, whether you like it or not. And so really processing your emotions is going to help. Again, raise our vibration, so that we can all connect in that non-reactive state. It means no one's missing anything. I think when you're in that state of suffering, it feels like something's missing, or you're just not quite there yet. But when you're in that state of oneness, that's where peace is. That's where bliss is.
And so that's like the equivalent of your Buddhist enlightenment, right? That oneness.
That oneness, yeah. I mean, that a lot of people, the samadhi, the peace.
Are you there yet?
Oh
Do you
gosh,
feel
no,
that? Yeah.
no,
I
no. I'm on the
do.
path for sure, but
Yeah.
definitely not there yet. No. I mean, I can feel peace. So this is what my guides told me after I wrote Just Ask Spirit.
Well, I'm gonna
And
interrupt you real quick.
it
Is when you say your guides, is that like your coaches, or is that your
spiritual
spiritual?
guides.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the books are channeled. Emotional
Okay.
Detox was channeled. Um, I mean, I find research to support what I'm saying. I don't just pull it out of the air, but
Right.
initially it begins as a channel, and then I have to put it together into more concrete understanding for people. But just as spirit, when I lost my train of thought there. Oh, spirit is a state of connection, is what they shared with me. It's a state of being connected. It's not just about, I connect with my guides, this is super cool, and it is cool. I'm getting information, I'm seeing synchronicity. It's not just that. What they told me, my spirit guides, is it's about, okay, great, you can connect here. How about here? How about the way you and I are connecting now? How can we bring spirit into the day to day? That energy, and that's when you got it. When I can
Yeah.
continue the rhythm, I can do it here, maybe in a meditative state, or through journaling, or through breathing. I can get those skill sets, but really the final exam material is, can I translate that and now have it happen on a day-to-day basis? And that's where I'm working.
Yeah, I mean, it's so incredibly difficult. There are so many moments in each day where it's hard to lose your focus on. Yeah, it's just so hard to get out of the rhythm of what we try to do and staying true to ourselves and peaceful. There's just so many opportunities
It is
to
when you're not processing
deviate.
your emotions. When you process your emotions, it's not difficult.
Mm.
I mean, I'm not saying you're not going to have moments where you're like, oh, that didn't feel so good, or that isn't the best version of myself, right? But if you really have a day-to-day practice, it will get easier and easier.
Yeah,
Just like what I did with my student today. I wouldn't have been able to do that if I didn't have a daily practice. I wouldn't have valued it the way I value it now. I would have said, "Oh, poo-pooed it."
right.
But I know the value of it, and that's the difference.
That's so powerful. I love that. Well, Sherianna, thank you so much for coming on the podcast today. I really enjoyed our conversation.
Thank you, Jack.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Grateful Podcast featuring Sherianna Boyle. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to leave a review down below or comment on YouTube. Also, you can share this with your friends or family or anyone that you think would enjoy it. That would mean the world to me and help get the word out about the Grateful Podcast and make this world just a little bit more grateful. Thank you so much. Have a great day.